I mean, honestly, the way that I get into a character is through their styles.
He was, after I gave birth, he was like, oh my gosh, if I lost you and I, went to the park with our 3 kids, I mean.
We're going to move as quickly as we possibly can and prove our innocence.
When Justin Baldoni's attorney stepped out of the courthouse, the scene outside erupted with anticipation. Reporters surged forward, microphones raised, desperate to capture a single quote after what had just unfolded inside. What was expected to be a routine pre-trial hearing had taken a stunning turn. The judge denied the motion for a gag order on Blake Lively, a decision few in the legal community saw coming. Court observers had walked in ready for procedure, paperwork, and little more. Instead, they witnessed a dramatic shift that electrified the room. The simple denial transformed the day's agenda from dull formality into the opening act of what now looked like a fierce legal battle. Suddenly, speculation swirled. Blake's lawyers weren't positioning themselves as a defense team anymore. They appeared ready to go on the offensive, and fast. Then came the headline-making moment. Blake's attorneys set a hard deadline. By Valentine's Day, they promised, a counteroffensive would be filed. No one knew what form it would take: new evidence, explosive allegations, or both, but the very threat was enough to send reporters scrambling to publish breaking alerts. Whispers filled the hallway. Some insiders claimed outside pressure was shaping the case, while others suggested Blake's team was quietly collecting sworn testimony from unexpected voices not even listed in the original filings. Through it all, Justin's attorney Brian Friedman tried to steady the narrative. Calm, measured, and deliberate, he reassured the press that his client's innocence would soon be undeniable. But his composure didn't erase the reality. This case was no longer about courtroom motions alone. Both sides were now battling to control the storyline itself, dropping hints, staging leaks, and using cryptic remarks to sway public opinion. It was a duel in both law and perception, and no one could say who had the upper hand. As the hearing closed, it was clear this wasn't just a trial in the making. It was a saga with ripple effects stretching far beyond the courthouse walls. The drama only deepened when reports surfaced of private exchanges filled with sharp words and accusations of betrayal. Conversations once believed to be simple debates over creative decisions were now painted as bitter fights over loyalty and sabotage. What looked like a united front just weeks ago appeared fractured, exposing cracks that may have been there all along. That raised a troubling question. Was Baldoni's camp truly focused on clearing his name, or were these maneuvers part of a calculated push to discredit rivals? Either way, the revelations rattled fans and industry insiders alike. Hollywood's polished exterior now looked like a fragile mask hiding power struggles, grudges, and strategic leaks. And then came an even more jarring twist: Ryan Reynolds. Once one of Justin's most visible supporters, seen beside him at galas, charity events, and red carpets, Reynolds had praised him in glowing interviews, calling him a talented partner and friend. But leaked private messages told a completely different story. In them, Reynolds allegedly described Baldoni in language that shocked everyone, branding him a danger rather than an ally. The pivot was so sharp it left people reeling. How did admiration collapse into condemnation so quickly? Was Ryan acting on new information, or was he forced into a public break? Theories spread like wildfire. Some blamed professional disputes, while others whispered of darker, unspoken allegations. Conspiracy-minded fans even suggested rival camps had orchestrated the fallout to fracture alliances. Meanwhile, Blake Lively emerged as more than just a defendant. She became the shield for her closest circle. Court filings revealed her push for a protective order designed to keep third parties from being dragged into the messy discovery process. That move signaled that even the biggest names in entertainment weren't safe from exposure. The most jaw-dropping name tied to these whispers? Taylor Swift. The possibility that her texts, emails, or private calls could be pulled into the case sent public interest into overdrive. Overnight, what had been a celebrity courtroom battle transformed into a broader cultural spectacle. Blake's insistence on a protective order looked less like routine legal caution and more like a preemptive strike to guard friends and industry giants from collateral damage. The implications were massive. What started as Justin versus Blake was now threatening to engulf other high-profile figures in the entertainment world. It was no longer just a trial, it was a clash of celebrity culture, legal maneuvering, and media obsession. Every move carried the weight of reputation, legacy, and billion-dollar careers. As Valentine's Day loomed closer, the countdown became symbolic. For fans, for studios, and for Hollywood as a whole, the date promised revelations that could reshape careers and redefine alliances. One truth was clear: whatever happened next would not stay confined to the courtroom.
Because, what we're talking about is so important and so meaningful that we're able to have this much anticipation. And it's based on a beautiful, really important book. And it's about a young woman named Lily who confronts the generation.
Hollywood thrives on spectacle, but not every drama behind its shimmering red carpets is the kind audiences expect. What started as a trickle of whispers has now exploded into a cultural flashpoint, one that forces hard questions about trust, reputation, and the fragile line between personal boundaries and professional obligations. Names like Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, and Justin Baldoni, usually synonymous with charm and success, are now tied to a story that may redefine how the industry handles its most uncomfortable disputes in plain view of the public. The atmosphere surrounding the case has been likened to a ticking time bomb. With every leak and new detail, the fuse seems to tighten, threatening to shatter carefully built public images. Then came the revelation that startled nearly everyone: the role of an intimacy coordinator. At first, it sounded like a routine behind-the-scenes safeguard, someone tasked with professionalism during vulnerable on-set moments. But here, the coordinator's involvement suggested something much deeper: disagreements over creative choices, disputes about boundaries, and questions of accountability that could not be ignored. Allegedly, the coordinator convened a meeting where cast members were encouraged to air concerns. Curiously, Blake Lively was absent. To some, it was nothing more than a scheduling issue. To others, her absence symbolized something bigger: unspoken tensions or even personal discomfort that pushed her to skip the gathering. That single decision quickly became a talking point, framed by critics as evidence of division within the cast, while defenders insisted she simply had no need for a refresher on set protocols. Either way, her absence became a symbol, a crack in the image of unity the production had long projected. As journalists and investigators dug deeper, the spotlight shifted beyond the celebrities themselves. Crew members, people who had largely remained invisible to the public, were suddenly being questioned about non-disclosure agreements, private conversations, and behind-the-scenes meetings. What initially looked like a narrow legal dispute was rapidly transforming into a sprawling investigation that pulled in voices far outside the Hollywood spotlight. Then came a leak that changed everything. Text messages involving Brandon Sr., a longtime collaborator and public supporter of Baldoni, painted a starkly different picture than the one audiences had been sold. In interviews and press appearances, Brandon had praised Justin as collaborative, generous, and deeply respectful. The set, he insisted, was warm and familial, with morale high and laughter constant. Yet the private exchanges told another story, one filled with doubt, frustration, and a fear of speaking out. Some admitted they felt pressured to maintain the glowing narrative in public, worried about the consequences of dissent. The contrast was jarring. Fans who once believed in the cheerful, united image of the cast were left questioning whether Hollywood's endless smiles were simply part of the performance. If so many people felt stifled behind the scenes, what else had been concealed? How deep did the fractures really run? Blake herself wasn't immune to that contradiction. Long celebrated as approachable and kind, remembered for organizing casual gatherings and boosting spirits with small, genuine gestures, she was now portrayed as a relentless legal strategist. Court documents suggested she was ready to release filings capable of dismantling reputations, a pivot that left many wondering if her warmth had been authentic or simply another layer of Hollywood polish designed to protect her brand. The fallout was unmistakable. Light-hearted late-night interviews where castmates once shared inside jokes now felt like relics of a past that no longer existed. Those same individuals now spoke only through lawyers, issuing tightly controlled statements instead of playful anecdotes. The camaraderie had evaporated, replaced by a cold formality. As the story escalated, its implications became impossible to ignore. Blake's request for a protective order to shield third parties, including global icons like Taylor Swift, from discovery underscored just how far-reaching the situation could become. The idea that even megastars outside the immediate dispute could be pulled into the case transformed it from a celebrity scandal into an industry-wide reckoning. The looming Valentine's Day deadline added even more urgency. With the promise of a counteroffensive hanging in the air, speculation soared. Would the next filing contain more leaked texts, insider testimony, perhaps even buried emails or video footage long suppressed? Each possibility carried the power to alter reputations forever. What was once seen as a personal dispute had grown into something larger, an examination of power, loyalty, and the way Hollywood manages its darkest conflicts when the lights are brightest. Each day brought a sense that another twist was inevitable. For the stars at the heart of it all, the stakes weren't limited to legal outcomes. The choices they made now could redefine friendships, shatter alliances, and permanently reshape the machinery of Hollywood itself.
And he's like, I mean, I've got a long list. And I was like, oh, really? Because I just have one on my list.
I have not seen a case so open and shut in my life. And the more that I read and the more details that I get into, I'm just shocked.
Hollywood has always lived on illusion, spotlights, red carpets, and carefully managed public images. But every so often, the mask slips, and what lies beneath is far more turbulent than the audience ever imagined. Stars like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively typically stand above the noise, their popularity and influence strong enough to weather controversy. This time, though, the storm feels different. The legal battle is unfolding in full public view, with each twist so dramatic that even the most loyal fans are beginning to wonder whether their support will hold if the revelations ahead prove too damaging. Behind the dazzling premieres and glossy magazine covers, a sobering question lingers. Will studios risk their reputations by hiring anyone so deeply entangled in this chaos? At the heart of it all is Justin Baldoni. His camp has armed itself with a cache of documents and a website that boldly signals confidence, framing his side of the story as airtight. His message is clear: he will not retreat. That defiance has already taken its toll on relationships, none more shocking than Ryan Reynolds' public about-face. Once, Ryan called Justin a trusted partner. Now, his words cast Justin as a danger. Shifts like that don't happen overnight. They suggest tensions were simmering long before the headlines. Blake Lively has drawn her own line in the sand. For her, this fight goes far beyond personal reputation. It's about protecting her brand, her friends, and the circle she holds closest. Her team has hinted at unleashing filings that could land like legal grenades, signaling that she will use every tool available if it means shielding both herself and her allies. Hollywood is accustomed to private negotiations and carefully worded settlements, but this open confrontation feels like a detonation. Every filing, every leak, every motion escalates the stakes, dragging the spectacle into territory the industry has rarely seen. Adding to the complexity are the glowing accounts once offered by cast members. For years, fans were fed heartwarming stories of camaraderie, of a set that felt more like family than workplace. Those accounts now clash against a flood of private doubts and whispers of betrayal. The contrast is startling. Unity, once presented as unshakable, has splintered into suspicion, fractured trust, and a scramble to control the public narrative. At this point, the central question isn't just who is telling the truth. It's who is playing the game most effectively. What began as a legal dispute has evolved into something resembling a political thriller, full of secrecy, strategic leaks, and shifting alliances that could rival a Hollywood screenplay. Protective orders involving global superstars, motions filed with precision timing, and leaks engineered for maximum shock value all add fuel to the fire. Each new twist doesn't just deepen the drama, it threatens to shake the entertainment industry at its core. The lesson emerging from this chaos is stark. Fame provides no shield when the internet amplifies every crack. Friendships can unravel overnight. Loyalty can vanish with a single leak. And once damaging secrets spill into the public domain, there's no path back to silence. Now, with Valentine's Day looming, the entire saga has taken on an almost cinematic rhythm. The countdown is in motion, the audience is waiting, and the next revelation could flip the entire narrative on its head. In Hollywood's history, timing has always been everything, and this story's next act could be its most explosive yet.